Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast.
So, quick backstory to Z. My backstory, Z and I one time had a phone call years ago. I was on a road trip. I probably talked to him. It was like one of those weird relationship things. I covered maybe like 400 miles, and we're still talking. I'm like, oh my God. It's like the middle of the night, and we're still on the phone. He's like, I know. Yeah, we just kept talking for hours. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to hang up. You hang up. Let's just go to sleep and leave it on. I don't want to. That's literally how it was. And then we talked all the time, but we've been training a ton together. And we've had, I think, a lot of growing experiences between us. We've been the true sense of iron for each other, which is good. The whole point of all of this is that we make each other better. So whatever he's going to share with you, I know is good. Lay it on him, bro.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
I love you.
I love you.
He was like, wait, is it?
I guess I'm gay now. I don't know. Mick said I was. Hey, so appreciate you guys' attention, and I'm trying to communicate as effectively as I can in the way that I do. I don't really rehearse any thing, really. I mean, I rehearse things that need to be executed, but as it comes to talking to people in philosophy and telling people my heart, it's hard for me to rehearse that because it's whatever's in the heart. It's going to come out. So this little talk, and we've done this before in the past S12s, right? And I've spoken at a couple. I've cried. Not at all. Well, I mean, I speak, but I don't really speak like, formal time for me to speak, right? So I'm this particular little talk will be about a little bit about my philosophy, a little bit about an underdog story, not for my glory though, but not for my glory, but to hopefully enlighten you guys with my story and help myself be transparent. So one thing I like to tell people right off the bat when I would deal with students or loved ones, friends or whatever, is like, I understand, without being cynical, I understand that humans are humans and we're like animals. We're some civilized animals is what we are. And I understand that relationships involve a two-way street. Like, there's always something. As a human, you are built to survive individually. You have instincts, you have selfish thoughts, right? And I think that's natural. I embrace that. You're human. You need something out of you need an exchange of things in any relationship you're in, business, personal, romantic, whatever. There's an exchange. And I come to terms with that. Like, it's not just, hey, you're such a great person, I'll just give you everything from me and I get nothing in return, right? There's always an exchange, whether it'd be nice for me to see you and I feel good because of the clout or the reputation you have, I get something from that, or there's some input that you give me that is beneficial to me, right? There's an exchange, right? Me being up here is there's no selfless act in my opinion, if that makes sense. Right, no matter what you believe, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just telling you in my beliefs that there's no selfless act. I get something out of this. Hopefully you get something out of this. I get something out of you getting something out of what I give you, hopefully. Right? So that's my groundwork. I'm laying the groundwork here.
Are we talking about sex?
Yeah, I mean, we both got to finish. No. So that being said, I am up here because it benefits me to some degree, but I try to be transparent because it benefits me, but it also motivates me to be transparent. It's because I think it might help someone else. That being said, we're all in different places in our journey, right? So whatever you retain or whatever resonates with you, I can't determine that, right? It just depends on you. So let's say this. All of us are human. We agree, right? Anybody alien? Anybody not human? Good. All right. If you believe you are, that's fine. Whatever. You can do it. You can identify as what you want nowadays, right? So whatever. Anything humanly possible is possible for you. Now that sounds pretty simple, and it makes logical sense if we believe we're all human and humans can do A, B, or C. So obviously I should be able to do A, B, and C, but the problem is that we don't all believe that. And sometimes you go your whole life with a blueprint or something that you follow and that you think that you believe in, but you truly don't believe in. That's all you know. That's all you've known. Right? Does anybody get where I'm going with that? Like I was a very religious person at one time. I believed certain things because my mother told me all my life, and I had no other reason to disagree, no other reason to not believe it, right? So, and then you get to an age where you ask why, and you say, well, we've always done it this way, but why did we always do it this way? Up until now, the reason I did it this way is because I was told that's the way to do it, right? Can anybody identify with that? Right? That's a lot of life, isn't it? Like you get raised up and you get to certain ages and maybe you never ask why, and then you just end up doing things, and maybe one day you get to a turning point in your life and it makes you ask why. And then it's like, why have I been doing this? Why is that the blueprint that I have to follow? Who says? Some of us never get to that point. Before I get into my story, I want to talk about another person that is real close to me. There was a guy that served with me in the infantry for years, and then he also went to Special Forces route like I did, and we served in 5th Group together. So we were kind of like cousins throughout our career cousins. I just made that up. Write that down. So we kind of mirrored each other's career, and he was married to a woman named, her name doesn't matter, and they had some kids, and my wife and I, coming from where we came from and on the journey that we were on, we looked at them as the exemplary parents and husband and wife that we knew in our life. That was like, that's the way to be right there. That's the standard. Yeah. And years go by and everything, and we was just in awe of her and how she handled things and how she was such a, I don't know, just a traditional and high standard wife and mother. We were in awe. Like we compared ourselves to her and felt bad about ourselves comparing ourselves to her and him. Right? And then later on, years go by or whatever, and we lose contact, or we do our journey like the military makes you do, and then we come back together in Fort Campbell, where I ended my career and where he ended his career. And she shows up to my house one day, and we knew that some things were off, but we never put too much stock into it, right? We didn't want to get in their business, whatever. It's like they're always good, and they're good, not knowing yet that everybody's human and not everybody's always good. And she came to my house one time after she dropped her kids off for soccer practice, and she was damn near stumbling, fell over, ran into my bookshelf, and about to knock my shit off. And I'm like, and I didn't say anything to her, but I told my wife, I was like, her ass is drunk. Middle of the day, just dropped kids off at soccer practice. And, I judged, obviously. I'm like, well, I get drunk and, do crazy shit, but I don't drive my kids to soccer practice. So I was way better than her. I only got drunk and did other stupid shit. But anyway, it's her situation. It continued to get worse. My buddy was deployed. And she came back, and eventually their marriage fell apart. She ended up cheating with somebody, some guy that, it's a weird story, like another friend of mine who had a wife that he married once, divorced, married another woman, divorced that woman, remarried his first wife, had another kid with her. She got pregnant with a one-night stand with this guy, right? Which is way out of her character, this other girl, not the one I'm talking about that was drunk. She got pregnant on a one-night stand, and while the girl that I was talking about that was drunk, we were supporting her while she was in the hospital after just having the babies, and the baby daddy was there, the guy that she had the one-night stand with, ended up hooking up with the other wife to one of my friends, and was having an affair behind my other buddy's back. So it's, 3 couples here, all of us friends, all of us in the military together, and all the wives know each other. And then there was some kind of triangle there, crazy stuff. And then she ends up being with him, and that makes her marriage break apart. She sleeps on my couch for a little while, gives us bed bugs because this shit got bed bugs all on his mattress, and I never had bed bugs in my life until she put them on my couch, and now I'm traumatized for life. I check every bed I ever see. I won't touch a bed or furniture without checking it now because I wanted to burn my house down. Anyway, so all that said, what came out of that was, I know this kind of entertaining, but this is like real life shit that I've observed at my 42 years of age. I've observed this thing and tried to take lessons from, not to mention all the stupid shit that I've done and got lessons from. And I've seen that marriage break apart, and everything that we thought was so perfect and so matched the blueprint of what we wanted to be in our marriage and our parenthood. And I've seen it fall apart, and I've seen her continuously just go downhill even more because she lived a fake life most of her adult life. Whatever motivated her, whatever her core beliefs were, it had nothing to do with the truth. It had to do with what others thought. It had to do with her projecting something that she thought was the way a mother and a wife should be. And she got tired of playing that part like every human will when you don't live the truth. Now, we could place that same template on any other person. Maybe you're a serial killer and you pretended to not be for a long time. Whatever shit you put in there will eventually get too much for your bowl or cup to hold that, and it will overflow. The bag will bust at the seams. If you're one thing all your life, and because you're matching some blueprint or trying to project something that you think is what you are supposed to be, but you are not truly, it will come out. The truth will always come out. Now, you can put that in any context you want. My mother used to say that the truth comes out in the wash, right? And I've learned not learned by being told, I learned from experience that whatever is in you, what is truly in you, will come out. I don't care how long it might take forever. It might take till you're 75 years old, and then you have a life of regret and sorrow, and maybe you just want to die. So it might take that long. Or it might be you become 20 years old and you realize that you were trying to live up to your parents' whatever blueprint that they wanted for you, and then you decided, hey, I'm bucking that system now, and I've got whatever, and I don't have to live by that. So hopefully you realize earlier than later, but please believe me when I say this, and I'm nobody that you need to listen to as far as this, except I got experience, and I'm about as honest as anybody you're ever going to meet. I guarantee it, because I worked hard at it. The truth in you will come out. I don't care what you project. I don't care what people think you are. The truth will come out. It will. Why do people drink? Why do people become workaholics? Why do people want to avoid reality? It's because the truth hurts. It does hurt. Until you realize that it's okay to be truthful. Right? And you realize, and you take responsibility for what you feel and what you do. So a couple of things in my philosophy. One thing, I had a group of guys, that story aside, right? That's a good example of somebody that lived a lie for a long time, and I seen it come to a head. I seen the shit bust out of the seams of that bag. It's 10 pounds of shit in that 5-pound bag. And she couldn't take it no more mentally, emotionally, and she just drinks all the time right now. She still talks to us, but she's so drunk all the time, works at a factory, is living in sorrow because of the relationship she ruined with her kids and her husband. And I feel bad for her, but I also I'm not going to sabotage my own life to help her. I mean, I said before, relationships are two ways. She don't provide anything to us except bad things, and I care for her, and I love her, but I got to take care of mine. Anyway, I see that, and it reminds me of this concept all the time. And I look at it in myself because I've too been that guy. I've too been the person that lived a lie or tried to live up to something that was part of a blueprint that I thought that's the only way. This defines success. This defines value in a person. This defines a life worth living if I do these things, A, B, or C. And if I don't do them, I felt god awful about it. I felt depressed about it. And what happens if you feel bad all the time and you can't get rid of those feelings, then you start to medicate, or I don't think medicate's as accurate as you start to avoid those feelings. So it doesn't have anything to do with medication, really. It's just drugs and alcohol are popular for that. But it could be work. It could be being a Green Beret, such as I was. The Special Forces in the Army, stood in as the crutch to give me the value that I didn't have inherently, that I didn't have organically inside of me. All right? You make things your value. Like, well, I'm this, or I have this title, or I have this job, or in this culture I'm in this supervisory position, or whatever or I bought my own house, and I bought a car, and all my family didn't do that, so I'm way better than most of them, so that defines that I'm valuable. Those are superficial ways to define your value, don't you think? I mean, we're here and we're saying it right now outright, and of course it sounds ridiculous coming out of my mouth in black and white like this, but that's what we do. And if you're honest with yourself, that's what every human being tiptoes a lot of times. We tiptoe that line. We've been through that to some degree. Right now, what's a common thing that goes on in our life that makes you feel a certain way? How you are on social media, or how people perceive you, which is primarily through social media now. And I'm not bagging on that or anything. I'm just saying that's a popular thing now that people define themselves by, especially the kids, like my kids' age, teenagers in school. Like, man, if people treat you bad on social media, or you ain't got certain followers, or you're not doing certain trends or whatever, and you're not being a part of that, then you don't need to be a part of this group. Like, you're an outcast to some degree, right? So do you think, you guys, and you don't have to answer this, don't answer it, do you think that there's some things going on in your life, or things that you've gone on in your life for a long time, that you've held on to as like that's the crutch that decides my value, and when all else fails, when I feel bad about myself, at least I can say I did this. At least I say I go home to my kids every night, and I know a guy that's a shithead, deadbeat dad, or I did this. Now you can think about that in your own head and come to your own conclusions. But as you're thinking about that, I'm not saying that to make you feel bad and say, hey, let me bring you down to my level so I feel better about myself. I say that because of this. We all do that. It's necessary for survival. We're built to survive. And I've got a new respect for those rationalization thoughts in our heads that says, well, at least I'm not this bad, or at least I'm not that bad. We do that because in order for me to maintain and continue life and do it at the degree that I need to be effective for whatever my wife or my kids or whatever the is going on, to go to the job and make the money I need to make, I need to rationalize, because that's survival. My mind is saying, hey, look, I don't want to break down and make you kill yourself. I don't want to break down and make you insane. I don't want to break down like a nervous breakdown where you have to just go away and stop life temporarily. So let's just do this so we can carry on, right? Your body's built to help you survive, man. It's an amazing thing, and we don't have to get into the talk about how amazing this thing we are is, right? But that's what it does. That's normal. So it's fine to rationalize, but be easy on yourself. The more truthful you are with yourself, the more you realize these things. Yeah, there's going to be processing of emotions, meaning you don't just realize something that's deep and heartfelt and impactful in your life and not have a reaction to it emotionally. Like, you're going to get sad, like you're expected to. Like somebody dies in your life, it's normal to be sad and not perform as you normally would, correct? Well, I grew up in a certain way, and maybe the military mindset and the mindsets of some of the guys in here from whatever walk of life you had probably told you, you don't do that, you just keep pushing forward. And that's another example of stuffing 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. Hey, I just keep moving forward. I don't process things. I don't do what my human body is supposed to do because the culture or whatever blueprint I think I'm abiding by or aligning up with says I ain't got time for that. Therefore, you don't process that shit. And what does it do? It compounds. It compounds, just like things in your physical body. Like Brian talks to us, those things compound, right? And then your body stops doing what it's supposed to do, or your mind or your emotions stop doing what it's supposed to do. He mentioned it earlier. He's talking about the domino effect of, I don't know if he was talking to me in a group personally or to everybody, but we were talking. He was talking about, hey, you overstressed, and this starts happening in your body, and then this symptom starts happening, this symptom starts happening, and now you're so far away from the actual source of what caused all this shit that you don't know what to fix first. Right? That's what happens. Can anybody identify with any of that? Talk back to me and respond to me. I know you're tired. I'm going to hold you long. You can identify with that, huh? Right? And I get it, man. And that's human. You got to give yourself some grace. You got to give yourself some slack. But as you're giving yourself grace and slack, you got to keep pushing on. Meaning, none of those things, if you find yourself and you live the wrong life all your whole existence because of some blueprint that you were following, and it all falls to shit and it falls apart, it's not an excuse to stop, because you have a ripple effect. Some people might call it a butterfly effect. Some people might call it your belief in a higher power, and that's the effect it has, your eternal life, afterlife. I don't care what you define it as or what you believe in. I believe things are bigger than us, and there is a ripple effect. There's a legacy. Under the microscope, my saving grace for me when I was going through things in my life, as I transitioned from what I thought was reality and what I thought was me and what I thought was good for me and the life I was living, when all that shit came to a screeching halt and I seen everything crumble, and I had to come to the terms with who I truly was and what I truly am and what I needed to do, my saving grace was very close to me. It was my kids. It was this. It's like, hey, if I killed myself, if I gave up on life and just said, I'm just going to be a piece of shit and live miserable the rest of my days by doing drugs or drinking or killing myself, which is where I would ultimately get to, I assure you, because the shit bust out of the bag when it gets too much for the bag. Then what was going to happen with my kids? Was that going to tell them that it's okay, and it's just going to cause us a domino effect of disaster, sadness, and just overall misery in the life of those that I left behind? That was my main focus. So I didn't love myself enough at the time to do it for me. All I had was the domino effect that was motivating me to keep going. Like, I don't want my kids to be living through this misery and pain that I feel inside of me. I don't want them to die. I don't want them to give up. I don't want them to have kids and then give up on them, therefore passing that same bullshit onto them, right? And then it's a continuous legacy, a continuous ripple effect across the pond of life, right? So my survival kicked in and said, hey, this is the only thing that can motivate me to hold on. So I held on to that until I got to the point where I could love me and not have superficial or crutches to keep me accountable and make me live through life, where I could enjoy life and enjoy who I was. And that came down to the realization of the truth and being okay with the truth and realizing that I'm no different than any of you guys, and I can't compare myself to y'all. So even though I can't speak to the experiences that you had and what you feel inside, obviously, I know damn well that we're all made up of the same shit. I know that we go through the same shit. I've met enough people, I've seen enough life outside of my own, and I've seen enough life inside of my own life to put all that shit together now, and I truly know in my heart of hearts that we are the same and you go through the same shit. I say all this to say credentials, what you do, and I know this is cliche stuff. I'm at the age, though, where all the cliche sayings that have been around forever, I start realizing why they've been around forever, because they begin resonating in my own life. And I'm like, that's why that saying has been around forever, and it's so old, because I see where it fits now when I couldn't see it before. So all the keeping up with the Joneses shit, all the fucking worship of people because of accomplishments, all that is for nothing. Give yourself a break, man, because they are no different than you. They're no different than you. There's nothing mystical under the sun that humans are doing. There's nothing mystical or magical. There's nothing. not a thing, right? I don't care who you are. The person that's the Michael Jordan of life or whatever, Olympic medalist of life, they paid for that because they've given up something else in their life. So where they're awesome under the microscope of performance and whatever, they're going to suck at relationships. They're going to suck at things that we're doing every day, right? And I'm not saying that to like reserve my ego so I can bring them down to my level so I don't feel so bad. I'm just saying, hey, I understand that there's a cost for everything. If I'm going to be good at one specific thing, ultimately the best of anyone, there's a cost. So there was a cost to me saying that I'm going to go be special operations. That cost was I lived a life that was a lie forever and just rode on the glory of what people gave me from the feelings that I had of I'm a Green Beret guy or whatever the Same thing with muscles, same thing with any thing. Like, what do I get out of that? I rode that wave, right? Everybody does that. Some of you you're a doctor, huh? That comes with a certain amount of foot in the door, right? That comes with a certain amount of, what's the word I'm looking for, Mick? Prestige. Big dickin' and prestige. Prestige. Worldwide. Anyway, that comes with a certain amount of prestige, and it's hard. I mean, you're a human. So as humble and the humility that you may have, I don't know you that well, but you're human. I know that you get something out of that. That's fine. I understand that. That's fine. Just don't let it own you. Don't let it blind you from the truth. That's it. Don't let whatever you do, the accomplishments you have, the things you have, the image you have, how good you've done at A, B, or C, be something that just blinds you from the truth and makes you think that you're all right the way you are. And on the other side of that coin is, don't let that truth crush you to where you don't think you're valuable, because you're just as valuable as anybody, because we're all the same and go through the same shit. Now, last part, I promise, I'll let you go. I know you're sleepy. Hopefully I'm not lulling you to sleep with let me stand up so I can keep your eyes moving. It might go over there, it might go over here, it might come back. Right, so, anyway, so last bit, I'm gonna keep your attention for this one, right? Who thinks that going to the Army requires a special person? Be honest with me. Going to the military in any form or fashion, it requires a special person. Okay, now who thinks that doing things that are considered above and beyond in the military requires a special person? Like maybe like Ranger School, some of these, maybe you don't know these terms, but I'm just throwing stuff out of airborne school, jumping out of the airplane, SEALs, Special Forces, shit like that, special operation, right? Who thinks that getting a master's degree at something requires a special person? All right. Who thinks that somebody that's a shithead in their life could do any of those things? If you're just a shithead. Okay. Well, I agree with that. So I believe, if I had to summarize that part, it doesn't require a special person to do any of that shit. It just requires a person to put their attention and focus in that direction, right? So that doesn't just determine who's special and who's not. You're not special. You're on a journey, and you're processing life every day. There's no end to it. There's no I've achieved this and now I'm the greatest person ever. I'm the greatest parent ever. I'm the greatest soldier ever. It's continuing the process. And the way I summarize that simply is something I heard from somebody a long time ago. He told me, he said, hey, it don't matter what you do, what you done, it matters what you do. It don't matter what you've done, it matters what you do. So I don't care what you got, what are you doing with it now? And that tells me right there, no matter what you get to, whatever achievement, it doesn't determine the value you have, whether good or bad. And that's on you, that's subjective, right, good or bad. So would you be surprised to hear some of these things that I've never told many, not a group this big before, but let's talk about a boy that all his brothers and sisters were adopted out, and he almost got adopted out. He lived with his mother. She became a drug addict and an alcoholic. She lived with several different men. This boy was molested by family members. This boy was molested by strangers. This boy lived with his mother, grandmother, aunts, uncles. He lived in a children's home. Seen his sister live with him in the children's home. Seen her get beat in the children's home. Left the children's home because my mother felt bad about putting us there. Come back out of the children's home. Went and lived with my dad in West Greenville, which is a bad part of town. From my age, I say, 11 or 12 until I went to the Army. I was pretty much the only white kid in the black neighborhood, right? And I was a pussy because I didn't have a dad around that showed me how to do anything, right? Like, I didn't fit in with the culture around me, obviously, because I was a white kid, you know, and I was in a all-black neighborhood. Went through people beating my mother when I lived in some of those black neighborhoods, and some of the things I seen. Went through seeing death and destruction and never caring about myself one bit. That person, I mean, I'm not even getting to my personal characteristics throughout that time, which was a lie, steal, cheat, whatever. It helped me to survive, right? Watch my uncles abuse my sister, right? So all those things happened. I didn't have one good quality about me, right? I said I wasn't gonna cry, but I lied, didn't I? Anyway, I don't say that for my glory, man. I just say that because it helps me to be transparent, because I'm okay with it. You know, because I understand that none of that shit defines me as worse or better than any of you guys, right? However you look at that. So I went through all that shit, and then one day I doing a lot of drugs and a lot of drinking and hanging out with friends when I was a teenager, and the first day that I thought of going to the military is the only day I ever thought of going to the military. Prior to that, I hated police, I hated authority, I hated myself, I hated my family because I blamed them for the situation that I was in, and I hated my friends because I realized that they only wanted that the drugs that we were involved with and the things that we did was the only thing that made us loyal to one another. There was nothing about relationship or understanding, love or care for each other, right? And I hated that. And then I was like, I don't know what else to do, so I just got to leave. I got to go to another place that's gonna change me, just like any human does. We all do that. Hey, I suck, so I got to go do this, or I got to go buy this, or I got to make myself this or that title in order to make me worth something. So I was like, well, I'm getting out of here. And you've heard me say this before. It's like, I didn't know at the time, but wherever you go, there you are. It don't matter where the you go. If you still you're going to be there. All right, so I went to the Army. Said, at least I did that. I'm still proud of that. Thank God I went, and I just went to the Marines, went to the Marine recruiting office, and I said, hey, I seen y'all on TV with them. This is in my head. I don't know what I said verbatim, but I said, hey, the suits with the sword and shit on the TV. I'm like, sign me up because I'm a tough, right? And I came out of there because, whatever, the meeting was over, and the Army guy was right next door. I don't know how if y'all know how recruiting officers work, but they're usually all beside each other. And he's like, hey, we pay you more. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what you got? And I went in there. I didn't know shit. Nobody ever taught me about the Army. I didn't even watch Army shit. I didn't give a no soldier, no police, no whatever. And I went in there, and I said, he's like, what you want to do? I was like, well, I want to do them guys with the guns, light fighters or something. I don't know. And he's like, oh, I got a job for you, infantry. And he was an infantry guy. My recruiter was. I didn't know what that meant. So he's like, all right, yeah, we can get you straight. You just got to take the ASVAB test. You got to get your GED, because I'd already dropped out of high school by then. I only made it to the 10th grade. Left. I was a bad kid. And so I went and got my GED. That was pretty easy. I was pretty intelligent. Got the GED, and I never talked to that recruiter. And this was back in the day before cell phones, so they always calling my grandma's house, trying to find me. My grandma was like, hey, that sergeant so-and-so keeps calling. You need to call him back. I was like, hey, well, when it's time to go to the Army, I'll go. I was working and doing whatever. Anyway, he got a hold of me. I went and took the ASVAB one day after work. I didn't understand, like, if you got to score a certain thing to get certain, jobs available to you in the military. I just went and did it. I happened to make the score right on the dot. It's called a GT score, and I forget what GT stands for. It was 110, and you had to have that. You could do anything in the Army with a 110 GT score, and I got that on the dot, like the actual score on the dot. I didn't even know what it was till later. I found out, and they're like, well, you could do these jobs, and I was like, I want the badasses with the guns, So I went and joined the military. I went first time away from home on my own, making my own money, really. Besides, living with my grandparents was pretty much on my own. Met my wife at some point. She went to high school with me, but we met later. Got a baby. I married her because I didn't want to have to pay for the baby, so the Army would pay for it, right? I was like, I can't pay for. I don't know how you're gonna pay for that baby. I'll marry you, so the Army pays for it, right? Did 6 years in the infantry, kept on going. The infantry, the first year of my time in the Army, I almost got kicked out. I got bucked up to I went and got drunk with a stripper, went to a trailer park here in Tennessee, stayed there all night, didn't wake up the next day, or power was off or some shit, whatever, the alarm didn't go off. I woke up and I'm like, oh, hot. And I'm in a trailer park, hungover. I found a way. I got a cab somehow. I got her to get me a cab or something. I went back to post, and my squad leader's out there. I show up. I ain't been to work all day, so I'm failure to report. They call it FTR in the Army. He's got me out here holding these helmets out in the middle of the sun, holding them up like crucifix, and like doing exercises with helmets. And he starts cussing me and yelling at me, and finally I was like, slammed him down. I'm like, I was just gonna fight him. I was like, you wanna? I was like, I don't just kick me out of the Army then. And somebody soft-spoken, eventually he got out of my face, and somebody came up to me with some reason and gave me some undue respect, and I responded to that. But anyway, from that day forward, I got in line. I shined my boots. I did everything good. I took some pride in what I was doing. What happened was I found something new to grab onto that defined me. That wasn't me, because I was a piece of shit to me. But now, hey, if I'm in shape and I can be tough, and all I got to do is look the part and do what they say and whatever, and be me, then I'll do that. Man, that's awesome. I get all this glory. I'm a soldier, and I get treated certain ways. I made rank and became a staff sergeant at E6 in the infantry while I was there. Still being this piece of shit this whole time. Bad character, bad values. I didn't even know what values were, except what the Army told me, and I just recited whatever they say, right? And then, of course, that wasn't enough. When you don't believe in yourself and you don't love yourself enough, and you're riding off of whatever titles or whatever bullshit that you're doing is your gauge for value, it's always something new that you need. Hey, what's next? Hey, I'll go to Ranger School because that gives you some clout. Oh, I'll do this. Oh, I'm going to be the baddest. Oh, Special Forces, I'll do that. And my will was so strong that made me ambitious to keep going just because that's what defined me, not because I was so good at those things and that I was just a Captain America type person. Right? My will to feel good about myself based off of superficial bullshit was so strong, it pushed me every inch of the way till I got to this accomplishment, that accomplishment, or whatever. I played a role. Even to that degree. So you're talking about, I don't know what y'all think about. I get it from other people that, from their perspectives, they think like this, they put people on these pedestals, right? And I understand that, but I see right through it because I know what's actually underneath that pedestal holding that person up, right? It's a bunch of bullshit. It don't mean shit. So my disdain for my life and who I was is what was the catalyst to pushing me to the heights that the culture says that I've achieved. Does that make sense? Am I speaking too detailed here? I know I'm a country man. I'm pretty simple. right? But I want to make sure I'm communicating clearly to you. That what pushed me to that point. Nothing else, not because I was just so awesome or special. It was live or die for me. I couldn't live with myself if I failed at things. Right? Now, X amount of years later, all that shit that part that I've been playing, that trying to fit into this mold of what I thought was supposed to be a Green Beret or the soldier I was supposed to be, and all the failures that I've had. And looking back, it's so clear because hindsight's 20/20, right? I see all those times that I would go strong, like pushing through and be on good spurts, like a year, 2 years of just being a husband that didn't get in trouble, or a father that wasn't mean and stupid and doing ignorant shit as a parent. I would go a good year, a good little spree, but it would catch up with me because inside that bag couldn't hold that shit that I was throwing in there, that fucking role I was playing. And it'd come out in, well, I go to whatever country or go to whatever place and now I'm getting drunk. And it would just all come out in drinking, and I would just, it's like, it was a release for me. It was a release that I couldn't, it drew me in so strongly, like I couldn't, it was like the sweetest thing for me to go and just not give a nothing. With my background and the things that I've done in my life, there's nothing that I won't do when I get drunk enough, which is, establish my belief that alcohol is probably the worst thing you could do to a person, because with me, I'm liable to do anything drinking. I could be a nun for 10 years if a man could be a nun, and then you give me enough alcohol and I'm like, game on. I guess I'm going back to the way I was.
You said the cabin at the bottom of the hill is sleeping on the main floor if you're into that sort of thing.
You ain't gonna catch me drinking that much anymore because I know what I'm capable of. Anyway, I did all that stuff, right, and I came into my SF career, my Army career. I got in trouble as an E8. I was a senior enlisted non-commissioned officer, E8 in the Army, Master Sergeant, the leader of an operational detachment Alpha, a team, right? 11 other people. 2 of them were technically above me. They were warrant officer and captain, but the rest of them, they were Green Beret, barrel chest that I was supposed to be in charge of. But I still was packing shit into more than 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, and it was just busting at the seams left and right. I was getting stressed out. All the shit was going on. I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't be around my wife. I didn't want to be home. I didn't want to be around my kids. I just wanted to escape reality by drinking. Finally, all this shit that I'd been getting away with all my life had come crash. It impacted the thing that was most important to me in my life. Not that it had never impacted me before. It's just now I had this thing that was the most important. This was my wife knew even when I was married to her. I was like, don't you ever mess up with my career. I protected it like it was my heart inside my chest. It was the gold nugget that kills the dragon, right? You cannot touch this vulnerable part. This is the only thing that makes me me. I cannot be subpar and a piece of shit in the military. I've done all this, I've done that, I've got these, and people expect me to be this, and I'm a supervisor, and I got this title or whatever, and I protected it with all my life, and then it came to the point where I couldn't protect it no more. It caught up with me, and it crushed me. It crushed me. I wanted to die. Now get what I'm saying too, and this is a testament to how strong those feelings of survival is and fucking worth is in people. And maybe you can't empathize with me, but maybe you can sympathize with certain things in your life. Like, it sounds shitty to me to think that, hey, that was the thing that crushed me. Not the relationships that and the hurt that I caused people in my life, but the thing that, like, this is the ultimate thing that is crumbling. This made me me. This made me me. What am I worth without this? That came to a screeching halt, man. I can't even describe the pain I felt when I wanted to die. That sounds so bullshit, man. I look back at it now, I'm like, why would you die over that bullshit when there's so much more important things? But I didn't know. That was the only thing that gave me worth. Right? And Here's the underdog story where we come back and win right here, right? This is what we're waiting on, right? We're coming back for the last second shot that I'm about to throw. If it wasn't for any of that shit, I would not have the insight that I have now. I would not have made the improvement as a father and a husband that I have. And I still suck at it pretty bad, to be honest with you, right? If it wasn't for those things, there was no other way for me to learn. I know, because I was a manipulative, got my way, I bullied my way, I took what I wanted, I learned to be a survivor from the life that I led, and I got away with it for a long time. Somebody like that, I'm always looking for another way to cut a corner and get away with things, and there was no other way that I was going to realize the change I needed in my life until everything crashed down. And I'm one of the few, I imagine, I don't know everybody, but I'm one of the few people, because I can't imagine anybody else feeling that much pain and still being alive and not just giving up on life and just drinking themselves to death or doing drugs, right? So I do have a heart for those that do drugs and are caught up in things that they just can't care about life, because I understand what it feels like to not care about yourself and not care about life and want to escape. So I see where they're coming from, man, but I just couldn't, man. Thank God that I did have kids at a young age, because, like I said, they were my saving grace. It was the only thing that I could lean on. It's like my pride kicked in and said, well, I want to give up and fail and just die, but I just can't leave my legacy. And it's not even about legacy. I just can't leave that for them to carry on into their lives and continue on down the road. Like I said when I first started talking, right? That was my saving grace. I didn't want them to feel that pain that I had. It's not even because I cared about it. It was because it hurt me to think that I was going to leave them in pain like that. You know, there's one more selfish thing, right? But it brought me to here. And I'm not a philosophical guy. I never was. I'm becoming that way, you know, late in my years here. But Stoic philosophy, I looked into it, and I'm not one of those guys that absolutely believes in any one thing. I just look at reason, I look at logic, I see what resonates with me, and then I take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But Stoic philosophy really stood out to me because of a couple things. One thing is a saying, the obstacle is the way. And now something like that meant something to me, because I said, the obstacle is the way. There is no way I'm here. There's no way I'm making an impact. There's no way I have any insight. There's no way that I push to be so truthful with myself without going through all that shit and falling so hard. I'm a believer of that now. It's not just words to me on a page anymore. I know the obstacle's the way. It's given me the tools I needed. And this was necessary for me. This was necessary. And I'm thankful for that. That's beneficial for me now. Another thing I take from Stoic, and I can't say anything verbatim because I just don't give a shit. As long as I got the concept in my head, I don't care about verbatim. But it's basically, you're responsible for your own joy. You are responsible for you and how you handle things, how you react to things, how you perceive certain things. You're responsible. And this is coming from a guy that had every excuse to blame something on somebody else. Like, well, I'm just this way because this happened to me. I'm this way because of this. I'm this way, my mama was this. I used that excuse for a long time. But then I realized that, hey, what can I control? Can you control who your parents were? Anybody in here, can you control the things outside of you, this environment that you're in? You can't control shit. Can you control your response to it? Yes. So this is key. And it's not me just telling you because I'm repeating some shit that I thought was profound. This is because I know I cannot live unless I control what I can control. Like if I dwelled on all the things and the things I went through and used that as excuses, and I didn't take responsibility for how I respond to that, and decide that I choose how I respond to that and choose to do things differently, then I couldn't live with myself. And that is what keeps me going. Like, I believe in me now, and part of me believing in me is also knowing that every single one of you have the potential to be a me. And it's helped me with my judgment. It's helped me with humility. It's helped me with understanding where people are coming from when they say, hey, I got this going on. Maybe I haven't been in the same thing as you. Maybe I haven't done the exact same whatever that you might blame yourself for, or whatever the but I do understand, and I do understand guilt and shame. I understand it greatly. We have a very intimate relationship. But I control my response to that. I can't change what's happened. I can't change where I am now. But I can do better. I can do better. And I keep pushing. I'm going to leave the ripple effect I have in this pond is hopefully going to be beneficial. Somebody's going to do better than me. Right? So I got a little off subject, but anyway, this is where we're going to end here. Anything humanly possible is possible for you, and you have value. Find your value. Find the truth, right? Have some courage to face the truth. And I know that's hard. Remember that courage doesn't mean there's no fear involved. Courage means facing fear. You're going to be scared. Face it. I don't care what age you are. I don't care how young you're, old, or whatever the you are. Start looking at the truth and just be it. That's you. And if that's you, take responsibility for it. Decide how to respond to it. Hopefully you decide to respond to it in a way that benefits you and yours. Right? And when you look around at other people like on Instagram doing shooting and fighting and looking cool as remember, there's nothing mystical or magical underneath this sun. You can dress it up. You can make it look sexy. I can get the right angle to make me look more buff. But that don't mean shit, man. Just know that those are regular people, and they're putting in some effort to manipulate people through marketing or whatever, and I got a disdain for that in its own right, because I look at, it's personal to me. But give yourself a break and realize that the truth is the truth. Last little quote, cliche saying, which is the truest thing I heard. Maybe think of it earlier. Mick said something about it. The truest thing he's ever heard from Super Dave, right? What I think he said, everything's important all the time. Well, my ultimate, profound truth above all truths is this: it is what it is. I know that ain't great, right? It's probably in a rap song or three. But that's the bottom line. It is what it is. What is in you is in you. Respond correctly. Give yourself some grace so you can respond correctly. Right? Now, how does that pertain to shooting and all this shit? Well, shooting and fighting don't mean shit if your life ain't together, really. What is the importance of this shit? This is just something in life. But let's tie it back into the lesson out here. So if you're out there shooting, who hears somebody else shooting fast or sees somebody else have a good group on their target and they're like, I need to live up to that. I need to do that. Or I heard this rhythm over here. We did a drill. He said 5 shots, and my 5 shots sounded like bang, 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 bang. His shots sounded like bang, 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 bang. So I got to start shooting faster even though I stopped missing. Well, we can apply that is what it is to this. Like, hey, your skills are what they are. If you cannot shoot that fast and be accurate while you do so, then that's where you are. Are you just going to pretend that you want the guy next to you to think that you're better than that when you're not? Well, I mean, I guess you can get something out of that, but you're still what you are. Right? So, all that being said, man, I appreciate y'all being here. It does a lot for me to speak like this. It helps me internally. So it's not just about you. I'm not a selfless. I get something out of this. But I also, I don't want, if I could alleviate one iota of the pain that I felt when my life was crashing down, from you having to feel that, then I would love to help with that, man. I hope that eases some of your pain as you come to terms with what it is in your life, who you are, truthfully. Right? So I'll close it with that. Appreciate you.
Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com. Hey Steve, what do you think of gunfighter gun oil?
Well, Mick, I have to show you about that. Gunfighter lube. Baby, I had the gunfighter blue. But then I got me some gunfighter lube. Let me tell you about it. Made in the USA, amazing lubricity, amazing adhesion, baby. 100% synthetic, but it's gonna last you. Gunfighter gun oil, baby. Took away my gunfighter blues. I'm still working on it, but you know.
So you like the lube?